from the studios of Clean Fuels Alliance America, this is the Better, Cleaner, Now podcast. Authentic conversations with leaders in the biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel industries. Now, here's your host, Scott Tremaine.
And welcome. This week, Clean Fuels Director of State Governmental Affairs, Jeff Earl, is joined in studio by Matt Amick, Executive Director of the Missouri Biodiesel Coalition, discussing their work promoting biodiesel in Missouri.
Thank you, Scott. Matt, welcome to the Clean Fuel Studio.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, so I'm excited for this conversation, Matt. You and I have known each other, quite a while now, and I know we were joking before we hopped on here, but a couple interesting things about this interview I'm going to do with you is first, you're the first person I'm interviewing that's not going to be retiring soon. So unless you have some news, you and the wife hit gold on the farm.
Yeah, no plans yet.
Okay, we check that off. I can finally say I'm not interviewing someone who's going to be retiring soon. The second thing is this is the first time I get to interview someone that I've actually broken their nose. So I don't know if we want to tell the viewers about that, but I'm still very sorry.
Yeah, and you still owe me some money for that.
Yeah.
Jeff is an excellent basketball player, and there's a noon game here in Jefferson City that we play at sometimes. I was playing defense on Jeff. He was backing me down, turned his head, whipped his head around real quick, and right into my nose, broken nose the next day. So unfortunate, but that's just the way it is when you're playing an organized sport in your 30s and 40s, right?
Yeah, we still think we have a shot at the pros, but we don't, do we? No.
No.
Nose looks
good exercise, though.
Nose looks great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I know the listeners can't see it, but it's an excellent looking nose. So definitely upgrade. So, Matt, thanks for being on today. So, the Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri, I know we do a lot of work with them, but before we get into that, I want to talk. You have some other roles that you have in the soy world. So, at the Missouri Soybean Association, you're also the director of market development for the association and the merchandising council. What does that role do?
Yeah, so as director of market development, my job is to build new markets for soybeans and grow existing markets. So that could be anything related to export demand, domestic demand for livestock usage, new uses or industrial uses, and of course, fuels.
Yep.
Like biodiesel, renewable diesel, or sustainable aviation fuel. Also includes food uses. So really any use that helps reduce the pile of soybeans that are out there. It's my job to help find those new markets. So we're really focused on these domestic markets recently, and also we've got a lot of opportunities on the export market as well. So that's my job at Missouri Soybean. It's one of our core programs under the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council, which is funded by the Soybean Checkoff.
Yeah, and how long have you been with Missouri Soybean?
I'm coming up on 5 years, actually.
5 years.
Yeah.
And so you're no stranger to agriculture. I know you grew up on a farm here in Missouri. You've had previous stops elsewhere. Tell us a little bit more about your background in agriculture.
I'm from Jefferson City, Jeff City native, and so I grew up on a little cattle farm outside of Jefferson City. After college, I thought I was going to follow in your footsteps. I thought I was going to be a policy guy. I had an internship in D.C.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. I did some internships in D.C. and also interviewed with some campaigns and thought I was going to go down that route. And all of a sudden, an opportunity in Washington came up with the U.S. Grains Council. And so they do export market development for corn, barley, sorghum, ethanol, and distillers grains, similar to what USEC, the U.S. Soybean Export Council, would do for the soybean industry. And so I worked there for a little while, and then I got an opportunity to come back home to work for the Missouri Corn Growers Association. So I worked there for probably 7 or 8 years, and now I'm with Missouri Soybean for 5. So, one thing that's kind of consistent about that career trajectory is that I've spent pretty much my whole career working for farmer-led ag associations. And I'll tell you what, it's been so rewarding to work for farmers. They'll challenge you, they'll ask tough questions, but they're gracious. They're great people to work with alongside on our boards of directors. They're tough, hardworking people running small businesses and family farms. And just, I have to put a plug in that farmers are definitely helping to reduce their carbon footprint through technology and through the conservation practices they're instituting. And it's widespread, and it's happening all across the U.S. And it's one thing we can give kudos to farmers, that they're really, really trying to increase yields and also lower their carbon footprint.
You really do have to tip your cap to them every day. I mean, when you talk about, policy and the policy that then trickles down to, their operations and the many hats that a farmer has, to where they have to be, chief scientists, they have to be an environmentalist, they have to be a small business owner, they have to be the mechanic, they have to, be the logistics experts. Like, how do they do all that and still every day with a smile on their face, just go forward and keep doing what they're doing, and just eternally grateful for their stick to itness and just their passion for it. I mean, it's you really have to tip your cap to them every day. The hoops that they have to jump through just so we can eat, have clothes, have fuel. I mean, it's an amazing group of people that we get to work with every day. So definitely echo your sentiments there.
Great industry to work in, and I think that's one of the benefits is every day you're interacting with folks that are providing something for someone else every day, like on the food, as you mentioned, the food, fuel, and fiber. It
makes it easy going to work every day knowing that those guys are in your corner.
Of course,
So back to the Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri. I know we are at Clean Fuels, we are members with you guys. It's kind of like a reciprocal kind of partnership we have. So talk about the coalition a little bit. When did it start? Who are you members? Give us the background on the coalition.
The Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri was really started in 2018. It was started by Missouri Soybean, so we're kind of a subsidiary underneath the umbrella of Missouri Soybean. Missouri had a biodiesel producer incentive fund that helped kickstart a lot of the biodiesel plants, provided some early stage money to get those plants going. And after that was fulfilled, I think the industry got together and said, what's next? And so really that included forming this coalition. Our members include the biodiesel plants, which we'll talk about our biodiesel industry here in a minute probably, and as well as fuel suppliers in the state and organizations like yourselves that are involved in the industry, Clean Fuels, Missouri Soybean, a lot of organizations that have a vested interest in the biodiesel success of this industry in the state.
Yeah, that's great. And so talking, a little bit about the industry here. I mean, we are obviously very prideful of the biodiesel industry here in Missouri. I mean, the National Trade Association's headquartered here in Jefferson. So just give our listeners a little lay of the land. Where does Missouri's biodiesel industry stack up? How are we doing out there?
So Missouri has 5 biodiesel plants. We produce about 250 million gallons of biodiesel in the state. And I believe we are second in production amongst every state, just behind Iowa, our neighbors to the north, our friendship with our neighbors to the north in Iowa. But it's a $2 billion industry in the state of Missouri. And so it's very critical to our success in the state. And it's it has a very big economic impact to the state of Missouri.
And so I know a lot of, we were talking about policy a little bit earlier. You had some early interest in that. And I know we've worked on some policy here in Missouri to help continue to support this industry, invest in it. What is currently the policy in Missouri helping the industry along here?
Can I go back and give you some history, Jeff?
Go for it. Yeah.
So in 2020, going back to the origin of the BCM, which Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri for short, we knew that we had to, and we wanted to pursue some policy initiatives in the state. We've got the federal legislation and incentives, and we thought, can we couple those with some state incentives that are similar to other states like Illinois, Iowa? And so we started off in 2020. We looked at a biodiesel standard similar to Minnesota, a B5 standard ramping up to B20. And we were actually moving along pretty well. And then COVID hit. The bill had passed the House, and then soon after the bill had passed the House, right before spring break, COVID hit. The legislature shut down. They came back briefly to just do administrative business like the budget. You were right there. I mean, you were in the thick of it in the governor's office.
I try not to remember those days.
I don't think any of us want to really remember those days, but it's unfortunate it didn't happen. But the good thing that came out of that is that we pivoted the next legislative session to an incentive, a retail incentive and a producer's incentive. So 2021, we were working through it. Didn't quite get it to the finish line, and then 2022, the bill passed. So basically the legislation in the state is that we have a biodiesel producers tax credit, biodiesel production tax credit. So all the biodiesel plants are eligible for 2 cents per gallon for every gallon of biodiesel they produce in Missouri. And additionally, we have a retail tax credit. So for every end user or person that's blending the fuel at the retail level or at the wholesale level in terms of like a fuel supplier selling to a fleet, they are eligible for 2 cents for B5 to B10 blends, and then they're eligible for up to 5 cents for B11 or higher. So, a great piece of legislation, monumental, I think, in our state in terms of getting that passed. Big kudos to the Missouri soybean policy team, Casey Wasser, Gary Wheeler. We brought on Liz Henderson later on in the process. Thanks to Clean Fuels for their support on that. But we got to pass. Jeff, you were there near the finish line as well, and as well as your time working in the governor's office. So we got it to the finish line, and this is a great opportunity for users of the fuel, retailers, fuel suppliers to take advantage of this incentive and couple them with what we have going on at the federal level.
I know a lot of what you guys were able to achieve here in Missouri with the producer and the retail has really sparked conversations in other states now. Mm-hmm. As I have conversations with folks in Michigan, Indiana, South Dakota, I'm constantly saying, hey, here's what worked in Missouri. Here's what I think you guys can do. I mean, we can use this as a kind of as a litmus test and we can go from there, but like it really has sparked other states. And so, thanks to you guys, for sticking to it. I know, it's never easy to pass legislation. People think sometimes, you just introduce a bill and they assume it's going to get passed and they don't know the hours and the works like the Caseys of the world and the Liz Hendersons of the world have to do to get that continuing to move. And so just appreciate your guys' willingness to stay with it. Yeah. COVID definitely, was, unfortunate because there was some momentum building there.
Yeah.
And, from my view right now, I don't know if many states are going to be looking at standards in the future. Is just, they're just tough. Yeah. They're just really tough.
I would agree.
And so the fact that you guys even, got it out of the house and that momentum was likely going to continue into the Senate, which was likely to have continued support there. But way to go, pivot, get something that is going to be done. Hopefully here soon we'll start seeing the feedback, as these fuel retailers and producers are applying for the credit. We will get that data back from the departments, and so we can really start putting some numbers on the paper on how this is really helping. And then hopefully that will take us into maybe going higher in the future. I mean, is that what the goal is maybe next with the higher blends, or what do you think the next step is to continue to promote from a policy perspective biodiesel in Missouri?
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. That's where our goal is headed. I think we'll have to evaluate how the program is doing so far, and then we'll look at moving on, maybe growing the incentive or whatever that looks like. But I think we evaluate first off to see how the program is going and make sure that it's a strong program that everyone is participating in. A couple points I want to jump off of that you said earlier. Starting that process early on, because like you said, it took us 3 legislative sessions, and so if you have an idea, put it out there. And second, when we moved from the standard to the incentive, we brought on a ton of other partners. We brought on the retailers, truck stops, trucking associations, even some of the oil companies. So it just brought more people to the table, and we had less detractors, and it was a lot easier. It's a lot easier to get a piece of legislation passed when you have very few detractors. So getting the legislation passed with a broad coalition of people was very helpful. Yeah,
I think that was a good point. Yeah, the pivot to the retail incentives definitely brought in that coalition and brought in more people. And speaking about broadening coalitions, I know you, through your work as the kind of the market development expert at Missouri Soybean, you're constantly talking to other industries about our fuel. And I know one that we're very excited about here at Clean Fuels is this potential partnership with folks in the rail industry. So does the coalition, Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri, have you guys been having these conversations as well with some of the rail industries here in the state?
Yeah. One thing that we've worked through is trying to figure out where some of the fuel depots are across the state and trying to find that opportunity to partner, because we know that they need to decarbonize. It's a natural progression for them to easily integrate a B20 or higher blend into their fuel deliveries, fuel supply.
Yep.
So it's a natural partnership for anybody in the rail industry in the state of Missouri and beyond, honestly, to work with us. And so we've had a lot of interactions with some of the folks in the rail industry, and I think that's a sector that we'll continue to focus on and grow in the future.
So some of the other work that you guys do, you're constantly out there, kind of the boots on the ground for the industry here in the state, and talking to multiple partners, stakeholders every day, fleet managers. What is it you're telling them when you're talking with them? Is it do they have decarbonization goals, or are they wanting to be more supportive of agriculture in the state? What is it that you're talking to them about, and why they should use our fuels?
Our goal at BCM is to promote the commercial success of biodiesel in the state. So we're working from a variety of perspectives with fleets, fuel suppliers, retailers. And I think the important thing to note is that they all have different things they're looking for. And, we're doing education on fuel handling and storage. We're promoting just marketing and promotion for the fuel itself, across the benefits of the fuel itself across the state. So we're doing a variety of things to try and interact with those folks, and it's been a great success so far.
You're listening to the Better, Cleaner, Now podcast.
And we're back. We got Matt Amick, the Executive Director of the Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri, in the studio today. So, Matt, thanks again for joining us. Before we broke, you were just talking about some of the work you guys are doing with these retailers and these fleets. So, dive a little bit more into that.
Yeah. So, I think when it comes down to it is a lot of the things that we were doing, from the promotion, education side, tank testing, storage and handling, just general promotion of the benefits. Mm-hmm. I would actually put it into like three kind of categories of things we're trying to address: infrastructure, the general misconceptions of the performance of the fuel, and then also price. Because ultimately, it comes down to price for a lot of these small co-ops or retailers. And so, when we're talking about infrastructure, one thing we should definitely note is that the last 3 or 4 years, Missouri Soybeans, as well as the Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri, has worked to get some state infrastructure dollars for biodiesel tanks, pumps, whatever infrastructure is needed at the retail and fuel supplier level to get that infrastructure out. Because you can have the fuel, but if you don't have a way to get the fuel out, you're kind of you're not going to be able to do it. So,
and I think you guys do a phenomenal job in promoting the infrastructure dollars that are out there, both from the state level and from the federal level. I know you guys are constantly saying, hey, if you guys are interested in this, there's money to be applied for to help you guys make that transition, to add some tanks, to add some pumps, whatever it is, to help you guys feel more comfortable with using the fuel. It is out there. Mm-hmm. Might as well raise your hand and apply for. So you guys do an excellent job in the promoting of those infrastructure dollars.
It's a great benefit, and it can actually work well with the federal HBIP program, the Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program. You can utilize that, some of the money from the federal side as well as the state side, for two separate things, of course.
Yeah,
because we don't want to double dip, right, Jeff?
Right. No, none of that.
But two separate things, and you can build a whole project around those two programs. And so that's been key. We've gotten some infrastructure at the terminal level. We've had some fuel suppliers put in infrastructure, even down to the fleet level. If you're a county or a municipal fleet and you want to put in a separate tank for your biodiesel blend, that money is available for that. Optimus Technologies. If you want to retrofit your fleet and put the Optimus technology that allows you to run B100 in your fleet, we haven't secured any grants for that yet, but I think in the future we're looking at that as an opportunity for Optimus as well.
Yeah, so if you're a fleet out there, a retailer or whoever, and who want to learn more about this, reach out to Matt. We'll give some of his contact information at the end of the show. But we really do want to get those dollars out, because one, it only adds to our credibility when we go back to lawmakers and show how these programs and these projects are performing, and saying, hey, we're seeing a lot of great use for it, continue to support it. We also can show, hey, when we're doing these infrastructure improvements, that's economic development right there in a lot of small towns, a lot of rural areas. So definitely a great benefit that helps this industry. And so, yeah, if you have an interest, reach out to us, reach out to the Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri to learn more about it, because they will get you guys hooked up and get everything ready for you guys to make these applications to the state and federal agency so you can start utilizing this money. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a key program, and it takes a while for that ROI to take effect. It's business development, right? It's putting in infrastructure, but it is happening, and I think it'll grow over time. The more money the state is investing in this industry, the more return they'll see.
Yeah. So the other thing you mentioned was the misconceptions. I know in my world in the policy that you're always having to bat misconceptions with lawmakers who probably have, not a deep level understanding of renewable fuels at all. I still have to explain to them that no, biodiesel is not made from corn. That's ethanol. I mean, that's sometimes where the conversation starts with some lawmakers. Which
also
is
a good fuel.
Yeah, definitely a great fuel. Love our partners in the corn and ethanol folks, but that's kind of that tells you the level of where I have to start sometimes. Right. But when you are talking to retailers and fleets, and they may have used biodiesel 20, 30 years ago. I mean, so. What are you hearing now? Are you seeing that kind of go away to some extent, or is there still areas that we have to address on some of these misconceptions?
A little bit of both. I mean, I think it still exists, but it's also dissipating, I think. I'm not sure if this is the case or not, but maybe in Missouri we started using it earlier, potentially because this was the headquarters. So we had partners like Missouri Department of Transportation, MFA Oil, which is a member of the Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri. They were using it early, and so a lot of people, had that experience early on, and so we do hear that a lot. We tried it 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and we're not sure we want to go that direction again. I use a quote from Scott Fenwick all the time. The one you probably, if you've listened to this podcast, you probably heard it. Think of your iPhone 15, 20, or your cell phone 15, 20 years ago, and what it does now. That's the state of the industry, the quality, the performance. So I think there's an answer for every misconception, even the wintertime blending. There's ways to mitigate it. You can make it work. And that's what we tell people when we work with fleets. You can make this work. If you want to decarbonize, if you want to see good performance, because it is a performance benefit, if you want to lower the price of your fuel, biodiesel is the way to go, and it's a natural partnership for all these people, a natural way for them to support their rural communities and support their farming communities. Especially, I think we've got a lot of different targets, including county and municipal fleets. We're actually doing some work with some electric co-ops right now, rural electric co-ops. A lot of those boards are made up of farmers and rural folks. And so this is a great way for them to support their local community.
So I know we were kind of talking just right there, moving forward. So as a coalition continues to map out industries, things they want to do, what are some of the activities we can expect from the coalition going forward to help continue the promotion?
We continue our day-to-day work with fleets. Any fleet that we see as an opportunity, we're out there trying to get in front of them. We've worked with Missouri Trucking Association. We've worked with the Missouri Association of Counties, Missouri Municipal League. We're trying to get into those areas as well to talk to some of those folks. Missouri Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Association. So a lot of those folks we're trying to get in front of it and work with, just on a general, let's start small, start blending a little bit of biodiesel, start offering a little bit of biodiesel, and move forward. And even at the infrastructure level, even if you don't want to put in, let's say an extra tank, education about, you can go to the terminal and get a transport load of B11 or B20 and take it to the farm, or take it to the construction fleet you got as a company, or the mining fleet, or whatever that might be. So we do a lot of that. That's probably our core activity. I've got a contractor, Darren Peters, who used to be with Clean Cities Coalition in St. Louis. He's a former actually high school chemistry professor. He makes his own biodiesel. He is helping me on a lot of that day-to-day stuff. He's also helping write grants for HBIP, for the state, and also the state program once it gets kickstarted in the next fiscal year. So he's helping on that front. We do a lot of plant tours. We've hosted anywhere from members of Congress down to local officials at these plants to show them. I think it's a touch and feel situation. If you can, you think about this idea about biodiesel. I never see it. come to a plant,
Come
see it, and then you see the trucks coming through, like the Love's Truck Stop, the MFA Oil, the Casey's, coming through to get loads of B99, going out to their retail stations, their bulk fuel supply, and making sure that they are using it, that it's actually happening, that they're at these retail locations, their users, offering it.
Yeah, I think, seeing is believing sometimes. I know, you're trying to sell an industry or sell, a stakeholder on why they should, they're like, what, soybeans, like, biodiesel? I mean, come see these plants, come see the crushing, come see those Love's trucks, those MFA trucks, just one after another coming in. And you really get to see it because you see the farmers coming in with the beans, you see them testing them, and then off those beans go, and then out. And then next thing you see is a gas truck leaving with biodiesel in it. So those are great opportunities to really showcase what we're trying to do here. And I know it's really helpful with lawmakers too, because now, I mean, not every lawmaker has a biodiesel plant in their backyard, but getting them there to see it, understanding I think what really helps is that connection to agriculture for them. We talk about this fuel. They know that farmers are supported, but then when they see that, right there in front of them, that's when I think sometimes that light bulb goes off. Like, okay, yeah, I can see how this helps agriculture. And we know agriculture is a huge industry in the state, across the Midwest. I mean, I think it's our number one industry here. And so, like, anything we can do to promote agriculture, alternative uses, let's do it. So I know those plant tours are really key.
Yeah, that's a great point. I forgot to mention that 4 of our biodiesel plants are co-located with a soybean processing facility. Yeah. And so, as you said, the farmers are coming in, hauling in the soybeans. You might have a feed truck leaving with soybean meal. The oil is being shipped over to the biodiesel plant to make biodiesel. And 2 of our plants in the state are actually majority farmer owned. So through a cooperative of farmers, they own at least 51% of that biodiesel plant, which is somewhat of a thing of the past. There's still a lot of ethanol plants and some biodiesel plants out there that are still majority farmer owned, but the farmers they invested in this industry, going back to agriculture, and they've built this industry through the soybean checkoff, and it continues to grow as we move forward.
In those farmer-owned operation, that's Mid-America
Biofuels in Mexico, Missouri.
Yeah.
And Paseo Cargill Energy, which is in Kansas City.
Yeah. Those are great success stories that we can tell and interlink our connection back to agriculture. So, Matt, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up? Is there any other news out there we want? I know one thing we didn't get to talk about. We were going to talk about at the very beginning, but talking about agriculture, here as we sit today, early June, you and I talking, we've really we went from 3 years of drought essentially here in the Midwest, and especially here in Missouri, to like, now it just won't stop raining. It seems like, and so I know we've got a
softball game tonight, so I think
you may not by the time we're done here today,
but it's good.
Yeah. So where are we at right now in planting in Missouri soybeans?
Yeah, we're somewhere in the range of 60 to 70% planted on soybeans, and it has been a wet spring, which is good to some degree, but also it puts the farmers behind. So we might have some replant in some of the areas where low-lying areas, maybe some of the river tributaries that tend to flood a little bit easier. But overall, I think it's been a good start. I've seen a lot of pictures, a lot of good anecdotes about how well the crop has progressed.
Good.
Even in the southern part of the state, they're talking about harvesting wheat and then double crop soybeans. So it's so far so good.
Good.
And let's cross our fingers that the weather continues to cooperate, because we could really use a good year, both for the fuel suppliers to get more feedstock of soybean oil, and for the farmers to have a productive and safe year. Yeah,
I know it hasn't. It's never easy for them, right? I mean, there's always something, and I know
absolutely
the weather is a huge part of that. But yeah, they've kind of, there's nothing they haven't been exposed to before. Mm-hmm. These guys are resilient individuals. They've been through good times, bad times, and they're always going to produce for us. And so, I know we were talking about them earlier in the show, but yeah, I know. The weather has definitely changed here over the last year. With it being more wet. So wanted to make sure I give out Matt's contact info. I'm not going to give out your cell phone unless you want it. But Matt, where can we learn a little bit more about the Biodiesel Coalition and the work you do at Missouri Soybean?
So the Biodiesel Coalition, visit our website, MissouriBiodiesel.org. You can also find us on Missouri Soybeans website, mosoy.org, and contact us. If you are interested in using a fuel that has high performance, high quality, supports farmers, supports the rural economy, will help you decarbonize and can be cost competitive to diesel, contact us. Absolutely.
All right. So, yeah, if you're interested, find Matt Amick at Biodiesel Coalition of Missouri or the Missouri Soybean Association, the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council. Matt, thanks for hopping on today. I love this conversation. So let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Thanks, guys. That's it for this week's episode. If you enjoy the show and you've got a moment, you can give us a rating. It really helps the show grow. And if you really want to go for it, you can leave us a review. We might just read it here. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've got a question for our experts or a suggestion for a future topic or guest, you can email us at podcasts@cleanfuels.org. And join us next week for another episode of the Better, Cleaner Now podcast.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. To catch all the latest from Clean Fuels Alliance America, follow us at cleanfuels.org. The Better, Cleaner Now podcast is a production of Clean Fuels Alliance America. That's all for us. Now it's your turn to be better, cleaner now.